Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Ernesto Mandowsky, the mastermind behind the $1 Million Machine. With a sprinkle of strategy and a dash of dedication, Ernesto helps businesses craft systems that not only enhance peace and performance, but also makes it rain profits. And you don't need an umbrella with that type of rain either. So when he's not turning business dreams into reality, you'll find him working out on the sunny Miami shores with his wife. So get ready to unlock the secrets of heart-led transformation with the amazing Ernesto Mandowsky. Welcome to the show, Ernesto.
Thank you, Tom. I love, your sprinkle of food in my little bio there.
Absolutely. And you like cooking as well. Is that right?
Yeah. I love cooking. I love baking. I love baking bread. And I love all things food to dining experiences for friends and family.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. I love eating, which is why we work out, right? So we can eat.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dive into you and your business and how you are heart-led. But of course, my first question is always, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
I think there's two sides to every business, every person. The brain, the logic, the numbers, the sense, the metrics, and then there's the heart, which is like the soul, the feeling, the emotion, the connection. And so I think a heart-led business is one that it's not just transactional, but it actually connects with the human and it transforms them. It really like on every level. Not just oh yeah, I feel good, but like what? Like a genuine, this is life-changing.
And that would be both on the business owner as well as their clients?
That would be on the business owner, that would be on the clients, that would be on the team, that would be on community stakeholders. I mean, when you have a heart-led business, it's one that is the change it wants to be in the world. It's not just changing in dollars and cents, but it's emanating something much bigger than itself.
That's a great definition. I've not heard one quite articulated like that. And I like that because it really brings in everybody that's involved in the business and how you want them to feel versus just, like you said, making the profit.
Yeah. Have you heard of David Hawkins? Letting Go? He's an author. He wrote Letting Go. He's a physician. He wrote a book called Letting Go. He also wrote another book called Power versus Force. And reading Power versus Force was very fundamental in my development, even of this definition, where a lot of businesses or people, they're kind of operating at a low vibrational frequency. And that's when they try to force things to happen. You want the customer to pay on a certain timeline, or like you want your company to get selected by the RFP, or you want things. So you almost like force them into happening, but that's a very low vibrational state. When you shift into higher vibrational states like love and peace and joy and fulfillment, you are generating power within. That's kind of the title of his book, Power versus Force. And when you have that personal power, things start to kind of happen. They start to flow for you. And so that's, where that definition of when your business is emanating and seeks to be, that's when things start to happen for it.
Yeah. And it's so true. I know times that in my businesses, I've forced things to happen and it just doesn't feel natural. It's never a good outcome. It's a struggle as well. And I think that's where all this, you got to grind it out and just work. I think that's, complete BS because it doesn't come from the heart. It's not natural, like you said.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit about your business and what inspired you to create a heart-led business.
My business, Million Dollar Machine, or MDM, may seem like a profit hungry business. Oh, it's $1 million machine. It's just a machine. It's so robotic.
Mm.
But actually, the inspiration for it is found in the idea of a dinner table. I shared cooking earlier. When I was younger, my family, we'd always get together around the dinner table, family from different parts of the world. We'd always just have these elaborate dinner experiences. And that led me down a career in hospitality, bringing in systems engineering and technology into restaurants. And in that journey, I realized when you run a restaurant, most softwares or technologies or systems, as entrepreneurs like to call them, they're broken, they're disjointed. And so if you have to ever ask a question of like what items are selling on the menu, it was always like this long, laborious process of like figuring that out, like running the reports and then doing the analysis. So long. And through my career, like learned how to use technology to quickly come together with these insights. And so in 2020, when COVID started and I published my first book, I said, entrepreneurs are just like these restaurant owners. They're trying to run their businesses. All their technology's broken. And whenever they have a question about like what's happening, it takes so long to actually figure it out. Like so many reports and Excel sheets and documents and different software tools that like they don't even get to that part, which is actually a huge problem because it leads business owners to actually be disconnected from their business. And I sought to change that. I sought to launch my business, help business owners turn their companies into $1 million machines. And through doing that, you not only have a deeper spiritual connection with your business, but you have technology now that's integrated and actually powering the workflows, actually like freeing up your time, actually helping everyone on your team do what they do best. And, they can feel connected in doing so.
Wow. So the technology is, just to paraphrase and just make sure I understood what you said. So the technology is there to do the heavy lifting, get the answers, do it faster, get the answers that the business owner needs, so then they can spend more time with their customers, with their employees, and just making the business better, which, really comes from the heart then, and they're able to get away from just the numbers and just trying to figure stuff out and have that information available so that they can lead appropriately. Is that kind of the end state?
Yeah, when your machine is running well, when the logical side of the business is running really well, you can now kind of tap into what makes it special, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're a marketing coach, consultant, agency, website builder, organizational trainer. We all offer a commodity service. Like the service is a commodity, but how we do it is not. But how we do it, the special sauce is kind of found inside of the heart, inside of the emotion, inside of the connections that are manifest through our own personal, unique experience and or viewpoint on the world. Like plenty of operations consultants, fractional COOs out there, but how many of them actually teach every single concept through the lens of a restaurant, which is a universally understood principle? Across any industry, whether you're a truck driver or a lawyer, you know what it is to eat at a restaurant. And so you'll understand these systems concepts when taught through that.
Yeah. And I like that analogy too of any business is like a restaurant. I mean, I remember one restaurateur that I knew in Houston, and she was very, very successful, had like five branches of her shop. And she said that because she ingrained in all the employees, it's all about how you make the guest feel rather than, mistakes are going to happen, operational things are going to happen, but focus on how you make that person feel. And that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember that you forgot the ketchup when they had to ask it twice. But if you make them feel really great, that they're there and they're enjoying themselves, then everything else is going to work. And obviously her growth was a testament to that. And that always stuck in my mind as well. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Hospitality lost art form. Will Guidara wrote his book. If you haven't heard, he's the restaurateur behind 11 Madison Park, which is a very famous restaurant in New York. And he wrote this book on reasonable hospitality, and it's been like trending in the business world. So it excites me that that's making its rounds. But the next question people have to ask is like, cool, I read the book. Now, how do I actually implement that in my company?
And so that's what you help businesses do, is do the implementation.
Yeah, do the implementation of their software, because when it comes to actually setting up project management tools, or setting up a CRM, or setting up Zapier, Kit, any of these tools, it takes either it takes a lot of headspace, or it takes a $25,000 fee to hire a consultant to come in and do it. And that person only focuses on one point of the business.
Yep. Yeah. Back in my corporate days, we did an implementation of SAP I was working in oil and gas, and that was $1 million a week to implement.
Yep.
Across some major oil companies. So,
yep.
There's a lot of cost in that. And if you can simplify it and even when it was fully deployed, it still didn't get me the answers that I needed as a manager. So I wouldn't call that a success. But in a small business, one, you don't have the time, you don't have the money necessarily, or the huge margins to be able to invest in these main systems, and especially if they're not set up right. It just makes sense to bring somebody in to do that for you.
Yeah, it's not even because there's that story like, oh, now I'm hiring Ernesto and he's going to come in and set up my systems, and I'm going to be like bonded to Ernesto forever because he's the one who set up my systems. Like, that is not what I want to do. Going back to the book, Power versus Force, my entire MO, like my focus is to actually empower the company that hires me, not by like teaching the visionary CEO how to use Notion and, all the things that I have no business that CEO has no business learning about technology. That CEO must bring in an operator, which sometimes looks like a business manager, sometimes looks like a COO, sometimes looks like a VA. And it's that person that I teach how to use these tools, how to ask the questions, how to actually create an intention when it comes to implementing a strategy, and having that person become the person who's a master of these tools. Because I don't want to be around. Sure, I want to be around, but I don't want to be inside the business, kind of trapped, trapping anyone there. So I really want to focus on empowering the operator, or the number two of a business.
Now, do you have any stories of transformations that you've either gone through yourself or you've helped clients do that brought forth more heart in the business after the implementation of the technology, that, what we were talking about earlier, but in terms of freeing up that headspace to actually take care of the actual business instead of, with the nuts and bolts of systems and technology?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say my transformation brought in more heart. I would say the heart was always there. But there was a coach that I worked with, a transformation coach, who is kind of a heart-led leader. His company actually is called Head, Hands, and Heart. And about 2 years ago, when we first started working together, he had his course, his coaching program, but every time he met with someone, he'd have to kind of not start from scratch, but like teach the person the material, teach them the concepts. And when we first started working together, we said, hey, let's take your concepts, turn it into a course that you can deliver to the client outside of your sessions, so that when you're in the sessions, you're exclusively focusing on not what's in your head, but like what is coming up in the client's hearts. So through setting up that course, that content delivery system, he could go deeper with his clients, and he could actually increase his capacity. So he was able to triple his capacity. He could work with 12 clients at one time instead of the 3 or 4. And not just that, as we set up his system and he brought in his virtual assistant, he actually was able to produce content to be 6 weeks ahead of schedule. So now most entrepreneurs, like, I mean, you run a podcast. I don't know how many weeks ahead of the schedule you are, but like, it's stressful when you're on the same week and you don't have any content scheduled. So the fact that we were able to give him a vehicle to now be a month and a half ahead, he could now be a lot more present in his day-to-day when he's working with clients and trying to grow his business.
That's a great example. Yeah, it is. It can be stressful if you don't have the content scheduled up or ready to go. Luckily for this podcast, we're about 3 months ahead of schedule.
There you go. So you understand the value of the
And what's great is, having that team and the systems behind the scenes, I'm able to have these better conversations with you and the other guests, so that I'm present versus having to go, okay, I really need to get this really good so that we can get it out by tomorrow. And that's never a good place to be in terms of coming to a business with heart or even making a profit at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back. You were trying to like get something to be really good so you can get, you're like forcing it. You're not like feeling like empowered as you're doing the thing. So, kind of going back again to the book, like it's just such a fundamental principle here.
Yeah, it keeps coming back to that as well. So let's shift gears a little bit in terms of talking about money and profits and being heart-led. I know a lot of heart-led business owners struggle with being okay with charging what they're worth and making a profit in their business. They just want to give. What have you seen in terms of balancing profit and heart in your own business, but also in the businesses of your clients as well?
Well, I think I work with earlier stage entrepreneurs, people under $1 million. They actually don't understand what profit means. And
it's not uncommon, unfortunately.
And it's not that they don't know what profit means. Obviously, they know what profit means.
Yeah.
But you say, hey, okay, your $1,500 website, how long does it take you to build it? And they'll say, oh, I don't know. And you and then you ask them, well, like, how long? Guess, 10 hours. Okay, 10 hours, 1,500, that's $150 an hour. Okay, $150 an hour, that's not bad. But then you ask them, okay, what was the end of the year? What was your revenue? And they'll say, oh, $80,000. It's like, okay, well, $80,000, you work about 2,000 hours a year on average, 50 weeks at 40 hours a week. 80,000 divided by 2, that's $40 an hour. So it's like, okay, something's not adding up here. Like, either you're just not selling, you need to sell more, or you're charging up, like your actual dollars per hour are off, and like something's just not there. And because you're like almost calling someone, you're not calling someone out, you're just like making them aware of the numbers.
Yeah.
They start to feel some sort of way. I'm being attacked. I'm being, they don't want to understand profit at that point. So you can't be heart-led if you're not understanding profit, because at some point the business goes out of money. I mean, you get out of business and you can't even have the business to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I think that many people can, take ownership and ask, like, actually clarify, like, okay, how much does it cost to deliver what I am offering? Because if that's not clear from the get-go, nothing, you can't really build a business on top of that. That's why, when I work with clients, like, transformation is the first thing that you clarify. And when I say transformation, not like cultural or digital, but like, okay, what is the offer? How much does it cost? What are the steps? Like, really getting like razor clear on that.
Yeah. And going back to that exercise, I recommend every business owner, especially coaches and solopreneurs, do this exercise of taking the revenue that you brought in last year divided by 2,000 to get your hourly rate. If you work 40 hours a week, like most probably work a little bit more than that, or or maybe less. But when you do that exercise, like I did that once, and it was quite scary. It's like, oh wow, I don't even make minimum wage, and I'm still cleaning the toilets in the gym bathroom. So yeah, I mean, it is very sobering to can give a nice little wake up call. I can understand like how entrepreneurs might be a little agitated by that, but it's a good agitation for their education
Mhm.
on their business. What type of other turnarounds have you seen in terms of getting this information to the heart-led businesses, and they've embraced it, and then something happened? Like what would that happen?
So I have another client there. They help authors sell more books. And when I first started working with them, literally hundreds, dozens of spreadsheets and dozens of spreadsheets. And they do podcast booking, they do video production, they do book reviews. They have several different services. And in our first 3 months, basically got all of those spreadsheets. We consolidated everything into a tool that I use called Notion. That's the tool that I get all of my clients on, which now collapsed like all their project management, all the task management, show scheduling, podcast reporting. They could now like understand how many shows have been shows by genre, like how many business shows did they book, how many women's focus shows did they book, how really understand the data and the information. And through going through that process, kind of like that sobering wake up call of our business systems are a little all over the place, a couple of things happened. The CEO realized that he was not interested in doing this stuff. He was not interested in learning it, which it's a great realization. It's exactly in line with my hypothesis. The team members realized that they were so busy, they couldn't keep up with like actually maintaining all this information.
Wow.
And that opened up the question of, okay, we are approaching 7 figures. We are growing. We want to double our business next year. Like, what do we do? How do we do that if the CEO doesn't want to learn this information and the team members are so overwhelmed to actually do what now? They hired basically like a customer experience manager who was going to be kind of that back end person who would manage all the information, manage all the client back and forth feedback, really help streamline the administration of these experiences. And now the CEO had someone who he could go to. It wasn't me. It never was intended to be me or our company. And, we'll see what happens. This is all like this year. And I'm very hopeful that now they have this business manager who's going to be overseeing all this information. And as the business continues to grow, he wants to double the next 12 months. And maybe I'll report back and let you know how it goes. But it does bring that awareness to all the parties involved and inspiration to act.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go down the route that instead of consolidating the spreadsheets and getting one system in place, they just put a person on it to just figure it out, which a lot of businesses do, which is a huge mistake because they're not addressing the root cause of what their problem was, which was 100 different spreadsheets, nobody knowing, what the left hand was doing from the right hand.
Correct.
And bringing a coordinator in that just adds another human element to it, which is not great.
Yeah, well, we do the systems integration and then you empower the coordinator because now that coordinator doesn't have to spend 10 hours collecting all the information. Like now they have the Xbox and now they can just play the game.
Yeah, I have a couple of clients that could definitely use that type of work that you do. I'll make an introduction after the show.
Great.
Yeah, because working, especially in the sales coaching that I do, like I want to see the numbers. And in a lot of the clients that I work with, they struggle to get all the numbers out of the database or get it somewhere that they can just look, and then it becomes 5 or 6 different spreadsheets. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be automated. Yeah. Cool. So Ernesto, how can people find out more about you and what you do?
People can come to my website, yourndm.co. And the first place that I invite people into my world through is by getting your scorecard. And your scorecard, every single business has these 6 key numbers that they must understand if they want to enact any change. And those numbers are your revenue per client per year, the number of clients you want to work with, the conversion rate, the number of leads that you get, the utilization rate, which is the percent of people that actually book a call with you that are already on your email list. And then the sixth number is the number of people on your email list. And when you take these 6 numbers, it's an equation that translates to the revenue per year. So if you're telling me I want to build $1 million business, well, we just work backwards across each of these 6 numbers to help you understand like what your business must look like to hit that $1 million goal.
Wow, that's great. And those are excellent numbers to track in any business. They should be everybody's KPIs going forward, and especially as we go into we're recording this at the end of the year. It'll be published at the beginning of next year. But at the end of the year, it's so important to do that analysis of what the business did the previous years. And I always like to do a SWOT analysis and just kind of do a review and then work with our leadership team to see what we can do to improve next year and hit those numbers, the numbers that we want with heart, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. And so one last question. What type of advice would you give to somebody that wants to do a heart-led business, but is just kind of like, I'm not quite sure if it's going to work or not? Like, what's your experience been? What kind of advice could you give to somebody like that?
I would invite them to consider asking why. Like, why do they want to do a heart-led business? I think it's the same question of like someone who's like, oh, I don't know if I should build systems. It's like, okay, why do you want a system? It's like, oh, because I want to free up time. I want to like be more efficient. I want to feel more peaceful. Okay, that's something people get excited by. And so when you ask like, why a heart-led business? Oh, because I want to give back to the community. I want to feel like I'm contributing to a social cause. These are good reasons. These are great reasons that will like leap someone into action. So asking yourself like, why do you want to do it?
That's great. And a lot of times I'm sure people will go like, gosh, I don't know why. And that's a good answer too, to know like where they need to start as well. That's great advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Ernesto, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your wisdom and sharing your insights on heart-led businesses and what people can do to free up their time and automate, get some systems in place so that they can be let that heart come out in their business. That's always been there. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. And to our show listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today and watching the podcast or listening to the podcast on whichever platform you're on. And if you could do us a favor and check out everything that Ernesto is doing, that's going to be in the show notes. So make sure you check that out and definitely take that scorecard test to figure out where your numbers are and connect with Ernesto to see how he could help you out as well. And until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.